Hello everyone, we are back here again with another video, a different subject, very important subject because many people die, many people take their life, many companies go bankrupt, business tycoons become fugitives. This is all because somewhere down the lane, all these people ignore the four-letter word called risk. Risk management is the most important part of everyone's life because there is risk on the road, there is risk at home, there is risk in business, there is risk while we work. People while traveling on the road, some of them meet with an accident because they didn't take care of this four-letter word called risk. Now, risk is defined as effect of uncertainty on your objective. Effect of uncertainty on your objective means when we plan to go or drive to a destination, that's our objective, and anything happens on the way, it affects my objective. So if an accident takes place, that objective is affected and that risk impacts my intention to achieve my objective. Gentlemen and ladies, I am Vidyadhar. This is my third video. Please like and share and subscribe and motivate me. This risk is, as I have already told you, very important aspect of our everyday life, everyday business, and ignoring it costs us dear ones and all that we have achieved. Now, to help the business enterprise, the ISO has released a standard, ISO 31001-2018 risk management standard. It's not an implementable standard, but it's a guideline to just maintain a system where you cater for this risk. ISO 31000-2018 has got 6 clauses in it, or just state it and proceed further. It has got the initial 3 clauses of scope, normative reference, terms and definitions. It's very common in all the standards. Then comes the principles, the clause number 4, integrated, structured, customized, inclusive, dynamic. It has to be. What is the risk management system? It should have always the best available information readily available to the people to design a effective risk management system. It has to be humane and it has to include human and cultural factors also. And as always, ISO caters for a continual improvement. This ISO 31000 also considers this continual improvement requirement. Then comes the framework clause. In the framework clause, the framework has to be designed by the leadership, exhibiting the commitment of the leadership. Leadership is the one which makes any of these kind of standards effective or namesake. Wherever leadership is very committed and having convictions to achieve their goals with respect to this quality or these implementation standards, it is the leadership which counts. Then designing this framework, implementation, evaluation and improvement. Again, processes, communication, consultation. In the process, we have this risk assessment, risk evaluation, monitoring, review and recording and reporting. These are the aspects of ISO 31001-2018. Risk is, positive as well as negative. Risk rewards. And this, wherever there is high risk, there is high gain. Like you have seen in share market, there is high risk, high gain. So that's why people take high risk thinking that they will gain, but they also lose heavily. So this high risk gain has to be understood and managed so that you will be able to take X much optimum gain by managing the risk. Now, what are these risks? Risk of accident, risk of non-compliance, risk losing people, risk of competition, risk of policy change, risk of customer loss, risk of market clash, risk of so many things are existent. So we have to plan whatever is there with respect to our enterprise or business. Now we have to have a risk management plan. In that, we have to identify risk with a systematic process and prioritize risk. List all the risk as per the risk register. Make a risk register and prioritize the risk by listing it. Then analyze it qualitatively or quantitatively. Qualitative is subjective. You can apply what we are going to do here is qualitative only. Quantitative is for very high serious risk which will not be dealing with it. The risks are classified into three, that I would say four, adding one more thing of reputational risk. Otherwise, it is most important is governance and compliance risk. Then comes the financial risk or operation. Then another one, the third one is operational risk. Added to the fourth one is reputational risk. There are different types of risk which are required to be handled in different way. Of all the things, what plays most important role is the governance or the compliance risk, because all the other risks are covered in this compliance risk. When they make law such a way that people are safe and follow the law, we will be safe. But sometimes we cut across the law because it's a little difficult to comply the law. It becomes difficult because of the ignorance or lack of knowledge of the people. When people have adequate knowledge on the law and its implications and its applications and solutions, probably this compliance of law is not that difficult. So please follow the law and then follow the control measures for all the three risks. Absolutely, you will have no risk at all, and your company, your organization, enterprise can live up to a century or more. In risk management, you need to involve everyone, brainstorm and educate everyone about this risk, and form committees for all verticals, means all departments, chart down the risk and the rating, implement controls, check controls, make the risk owners responsible for implementation of the risk controls. In hierarchy of risk control, we have this first, what you need to do is eliminate this risk. If the source is a risk, if something is a risk, eliminate it. What if you can remove that aspect, then it's the most safest way. Then otherwise, substitute with the more safer version of the whole thing, safe version of the process. Then next one is transferring the risk to someone else. Transferring the risk means, like, I have a risk, to transfer it to the, like, financial risks are transferred to the insurance. So insurance take over your financial loss. That is transferring the risk. Then sharing the risk, take a partner for doing something very risky. Giving subcontract is another sharing the risk or transferring the risk case. Then mitigate the risk yourself with the controls or technological controls or administration control. There are two types of controls: administration or the technological controls. Apply one of them and mitigate this. Treat the risk, reduce it to manageable level and livable level. Live with the low risk if inevitable. You have to live with, as I have told you, like electricity or gas, but make it livable. Then only accept those risks. Now we have to see listing this into a risk register. Risk register sample I am showing now. You can check it up. This is a sample of a risk register, very simple one. You can expand it and make it more effective. I have given a combined risk register for 3 separate departments. You can have each one for each department, and then sub-departments as the processes can also be identified here. Now this vertical columns, there are 10 of them, and the horizontal rows, there are 4 of them. And in the 10 columns, they have identified one for process, activity, risk, compliance, likelihood, severity, existing controls, risk rating, additional controls, and revised risk rating. This is the columns. Then the horizontal ones, board, finance, production department. You can add department, or you can separate this into different departments also, because board register, generally they want to keep it separately, the significant risk only. It can be done as such, but a significant risk of all the departments, better that it is included into the board, because these risks, when they aggravate, they go beyond control and create serious problem to the organizations. Now coming to identify this first activity, the board activity which has the impact is policy decisions of merger, demerger, whatever it is, loan or sanctions. They may impact the risk of having a risk of closure, serious risk, and sometimes they have a compliance requirements also. Likelihood probably very rarely or occasionally, but severity, all these risks of board are severity always very high. So I have marked it as 3. What are the existing controls? Generally, most of the organizations which were professional organizations have existing control for all these policies, but uh, the risk rating here is given as 3, and 3 may not qualify if you identify qualifying requirement for high risk or significant risk as 4. It, but since the severity is very high, probably this also can qualify to be a significant risk to be on the close monitor of the senior management of the board. And then according to this, add a plan and add a necessary controls further. Then really calculate the existing additional controls on this after multiplying the how much the rating comes down. Then comes the finance one. Finance also probably the taxes activity. Then tax not paid leads to penalty or delay in penalty. Then comes compliance. Yes, compliance laws are applicable. Once the compliance is applicable, then once again it becomes significant like that. The likelihood somewhere not, it's in middle one, number 2. Then severity risk is 1. Like you can take it as 2 or 3 as convenient to you. So it could be significant also if you think, or no, it's not significant here. As you can decide after brainstorming how it is required for organization. Then have a existing controls. You can have existing controls, and depending on the risk rating, the product of likelihood and severity, you can design additional controls, and then risk rating can be revised. Similarly, the production one also, the hazardous process is the activity which can have injuries, serious injuries. Compliance requirements under the Factory Act or the new code, occupational code, also will have some compliance requirement if it is. Likelihood there could be, maybe yearly. The highest one, that is 3. Number 3 is given there. Severity of risk is also 3. Then it becomes 9. 3 into 3 becomes 9. It's a highest risk, and additional controls required to be designed and put in place to avoid this recurrence of these kind of accidents. So this way we can design a risk register, and it can be improvised depending on the departments, and each department or the people working on ground, whichever department, need to contribute to understand and identify this risk, because people who work will be able to identify the risk more effectively than those who do not. After this risk register, then we have to plot this risk matrix with 2 axes, horizontal and vertical, for each one of them. Before that, we need to give a rating of 1, 2, 3. If you have to draw 3 by 3 square matrix, you can also do 5 by 5 or 9 by 9. We will see now the matrix, how we have to design. This is a small matrix of 2 severity and likelihood ratings, which is for a 3 by 3 square. It is rated from 1 to 3, increasing order. So 1 is the lowest and 3 is the highest in both the cases. In likelihood rating, 1 starts rarely, 2 is yearly, and 3 is monthly. And in case of severity rating, 1 is low risk, no injury or vested injury, and no loss. Second is in severity is medium risk, body injury, financial loss. And third in severity risk is high risk, that is business collapse or fatalities. This is another sample matrix of risk drawn on 3 by 3 square. Vertical axis represents likelihood, and the horizontal axis represents the severity. Now, before this slide, we have already studied in the previous slide, the rating given to each of these. So if we give it as 1, so it could be the smallest of the all three. It is loss, small loss which can be managed within the enterprise, or a first aid, or a small injury. Coming to second in the severity, second, if you give number 2, then it is a financial loss slightly impacting the operations, uh, and injury which requires external attention. Coming to the third one of the series of severity, it could be severe impact on the operations of the business or the enterprise, and a fatality or a multiple fatality, which could be also identified as significant, because when it is a fatality or a serious business threat, even if it is rarely or occasionally, likelihood may be very small, this needs the immediate attention of the top management. So the severity being the highest and the likelihood being the minimum, it qualifies to become a significant one. Coming to the likelihood axis, that is vertical axis, first one is minimum, that is can be assigned a rating of 1 for rarely occurring incidents, and 2 is given to say yearly, and 3 is given monthly or weekly as convenient to the planners or the plotters or organizations. Now multiplying this, one is the first square will be 1 into 1 is, it's very low risk, you can live with it. Then comes another on the horizontal line, 1 into 2 is medium risk, or vertical also likelihood 2 into 1 also medium risk. And here on the horizontal side line again, the last square, last cell, it becomes 3 into 1, and here it may not qualify to become high risk and or a significant risk, because if you put a significant risk qualification number around 4, then this is 3 into 3, it may not qualify, but because it is a highest severity, it should be also be identified as severe risk. Then coming to likelihood, first column, the top one, 1 into 3, it is once again, because if you take significant rating as 4, it is not significant, but it is rarely happening, a very negligible injury or a loss, so it may not qualify to be significant. Similarly, other ones coming to next square, 2 into 2, 2 into 2, the center one is 2 into 2 is 4, it qualifies to become a uh, high risk. Then going to the topmost, 3 into 3, 3 3 is a 9, is the highest risk, which requires immediate attention, all the attention of the organization. So this way, this metrics need to be interpreted, and still it can be simplified or quantified as convenient to the planners or organization to reduce the risk, because you have to bring down the risk to a livable risk, low risk, so that we can accept risk to a livable condition and then live with it. So we need to eliminate risk, control risk, and bring it down to a level where we can live with the risk. Do not play with the risk, control the risk, so that your organization, enterprise, or yourself can live up to 100 years or many more years to come. Thank you, gentlemen. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and keep me motivated to bring more and more videos with my experience in this field. Thank you, gentlemen.